Have you watched any movies about great rulers, kings or queens?
I have seen PS1 and PS2. I've seen Bahubali. I've seen Prince Caspian from Chronicles of Narnia.
I saw PS1 and PS2.
Wonderful. Have you seen animated movies of non?
Lion King.
Yes, it was Lion King.
Yeah, even non-humans can have rulers, right? Did you like this?
50-50.
I enjoyed PS1 and PS2. Bahubali is like okay. Prince Caspian I loved.
Lion King I liked. It was the best.
It was the best. Why do you think people like stories about rulers?
The extremely complicated plots that can be evoked simply because they are rulers.
Oh, you cannot have complicated plots about common people like you and me.
I mean, it's possible very much, but like rulers in general have always been subject to a lot of political stuff and people wanting to take over the throne. It's just like normal for stuff like that to happen.
We should also clarify to listeners who may not be familiar with movies made in India. PS1 and PS2 refer to two movies called Ponniyin Selvan 1 and Ponniyin Selvan 2. These were originally made in Tamil. Rushil, you too have seen it. Do you guys know whether the story is real or fictional?
Maybe
Fictional.
it is real.
Fictional, but possibly based on reality.
Because they have mentioned all the cholas and all.
So, very based on reality, Rajaraja Sora did exist. So, the plot is fictional, but the characters, at least most of them, are real.
Okay.
At the least, the place is real and the royal family is real.
Okay, we don't have to split hairs there. It is a piece of historical fiction. So you're right. Some of the kings who feature in the story, all the royalty, they are all based on real characters. But the plots and the twists and other additional characters, they are not necessarily real. Coming to today's episode, who are we going to talk about?
Tribhuvana Mahadevi.
Has either one of you heard of Tribhuvana Mahadevi until I had shared this name with you, saying that, hey, we're going to do a recording on this?
No, miss, I did not heard.
No, but then I did lots of research and found out lots of stuff.
Hi, you're listening to What's New Today, and this is your host Sangeeta. This episode is part of our series on the queens who ruled India. And in today's episode, we talk about a queen. Like Rushil mentioned, her name is Tribhuvana Mahadevi. Now, interestingly, her name does not feature in most modern day history textbooks in schools, but it did feature in very ancient books written in many parts of the world. It is from a 10th century geography book that was extraordinarily popular in the 10th century, and it was very popular in the Persian Empire. The Arabians called her a Rayini. Can you guess what that word might mean?
Rani.
Amazing queen, super powerful queen, or just queen?
I think Raini is just a different form of Rani. The Arabians called her a Raini or a ruler. Thanks to her rule, her dynasty claimed superiority over everybody else in the region. That is, we are talking about the rest of India at this point in time, which means for the Arabians, this Raini was perhaps far more commendable than any other ruler who was ruling any other kingdom in the rest of India at that point in time. And that is why they've drawn attention to her in one of their books. So, to talk about Tribhuvana Mahadevi, we've already heard two voices who've done their research. So, let's hear their names.
Hello, my name is Adya. I'm 12 years old, turning 13 next month.
Hi, my name is Rushilanchan. I am 10 years old. I live in Mumbai and I like to play basketball.
You love to play basketball. Wonderful, Rushil. Thank you, Adya. Now, instead of just narrating the story of this queen, I thought we'll uncover her story through a game. I'll make 5 statements about this queen, and you need to tell me if I am serious or joking. And since both of you have done some amount of research about the queen, I think you will have some advantage in answering them as compared to our listeners who may have never heard her name before. Are you up for the game?
Yes.
I'm up. Totally up.
Awesome. Statement one: if you visited Malaysia or Indonesia today, you can hear them use a word kling, K L I N G. It refers to people of Indian origin. Am I serious or joking?
Hopefully, you're joking because Malaysia and
Joking.
Singapore in general have a major Indian population. And I don't think Indians would refer to other people, other Indians as Kling.
So you're absolutely right that Southeast Asia has historically had a large Indian population that has gone and settled there. What I'm suggesting is that the native Indonesians refer to people of Indian origin who live in their country as klings, K L I N G. I'll give you two hints. It is related to Tribhuvana Mahadevi, the kingdom that she ruled.
Oh, I know. You are serious because the kingdom she ruled was called Kalinga, which means that if you take away the A, you get Kling up, which means you could easily refer to the Indians as Klings.
Yes, the statement is serious and the reasoning is right. In ancient times, the Kalinga kingdom had very strong trade ties with the rest of Southeast Asia. So, because rest of Southeast Asia's main contact with the Indian continent was with the Kalinga Empire, they refer to almost anybody who came from India as KLING, as Kling. Also, I want to warn all of you that please do not use the word Kling today if you are in Malaysia or Indonesia. I don't know about other Southeast Asian countries, but there it's considered a racial slur. It is a demeaning way of referring to people from Indian origin. Over the last 1,000 years, the connotations change. Today, they refer to people who are from India, specifically South India. It can be deemed racist and not in a very polite way. So that's the connection: Kalinga, Kling, and Southeast Asia.
So this is like a friendly nickname.
It used to be a very friendly nickname. I don't think it is anymore.
Yikes.
All right, second statement. Am I serious or joking? This kingdom earned a lot of money mainly by trading its elephants.
You're
Joking.
joking. You're joking. Wait, no. Kalinga was a seaside kingdom, right? Then it would definitely not be elephants. You can't export elephants on ship.
The ships would sink midway.
That and the elephants sometimes get mad. It would be very inconvenient, so to speak.
They could not trade elephants. I agree because and that time the export technology was also not that good. Ships were not made of hard material.
Okay, so you think that ships then were not sturdy enough to accommodate mass transport of a large number of elephants? And
Yes.
according to Adya, elephants would go mad if they spent so many days on sea.
That was the second point. The first point was also that the ships couldn't bear them. Oh, and the fact that they need a lot of supplies to keep them alive, and the ships can't carry that and the elephants. The fourth is that elephants usually have need like lots and lots and lots of water.
And they also require a good amount of space.
I have to burst both your bubbles. I was serious when I said that the Kalinga kingdom earned a lot of money by trading its elephants. But I'll go by some of the facts that I do know. The elephants in the Kalinga kingdom, they are considered some of the largest and some of the best elephants that can be trained and used for war. The elephants from East India, especially Kalinga, were much in demand across India, even in kingdoms as far away as Persia. In the East, Malaysia, Indonesia, all of them used to trade with the Kalinga kingdom because their elephants were much in demand. Interesting trivia, even the Soras, because you spoke about Rajaraja Sora, even the Soras used to get several of their elephants from the Kalinga kingdom. I don't know how they transported those elephants without those elephants going mad, but in terms of naval technology, they were really very advanced. They had some fantastic quality ships even then, 1,000 years ago. So they were able to build sturdy enough ships.
That's pretty amazing. Wait, what happens if the elephants calf in the middle of the
If the elephant bears a child in the middle of the.
voyage? Yes. And they didn't bring enough supplies to support that baby.
Do you know how long an elephant's pregnancy is?
1 year,
Uh,
2 years.
It's between 18 and 22 months. So if an elephant is pregnant, they already know that this elephant is pregnant, so it's not going to surprise anyone. And I don't think they would risk transporting a pregnant elephant on ship. These are very interesting points to ponder, but I will now move on to statement 3. Tribhuvana Mahadevi was born to a famous and a very powerful king in Orissa, which is modern day Kalinga. Am I serious or joking?
you are half serious, half joking, because her father was actually a very powerful king, but he was from the Nagodbhava something something something. Either way, I'm not sure if that's Kalinga or not. Because I know that she ascended the throne with the help of her father. And he was a powerful king.
I think you're little serious and more joking. I think you're joking because she was just a normal girl who lived in Odisha like that.
According to Rishi, she is not the daughter of a king, but she lived in Orissa. According to Adya, she is the daughter of a king, but she's not sure if she's from Orissa. Okay, the correct answer is I was joking. She was not born to the ruler of the Kalinga kingdom, but yes, she was born to a very powerful king. He was the ruler of one of those Ganga dynasties, which,
Neighboring kingdom. He must have
yeah,
been at least slightly neighboring because, like, he wouldn't have had a lot of influence over Kalinga if he hadn't been at least a little close to Kalinga.
yeah, that's true. It was definitely more neighboring than some place in Russia. So yeah, he was definitely the a neighboring king, and his daughter was Tribhuvana Mahadevi. So she was not born to the dynasty that ruled Kalinga. Did you know which was the dynasty that ruled Kalinga?
Bhauma Samrajya.
Absolutely right. The Bhaumakaras were the ones who were ruling this kingdom or this part of the country. She was the daughter of a neighboring king. So this princess was married off to the king of the Bhaumakara dynasty. So that is how she comes to live in Kalinga.
The name of her husband, Tribhuvana Mahadevi's husband, was Shantikara Deva. But her husband died in a battle.
There were either 3 or 6 different Tribhuvana Mahadevis.
When you said 6 different Tribhuvana Mahadevis, are you referring to 6 different people who lived in parallel universes or 6 clones?
Maybe she is talking about the 6 rulers who ruled that place. There were 30 rulers, out of them 6 queen ruled.
There were 24 men.
And 6 women?
Of course, that's actually a bigger ratio than there usually is.
But Adya will come to that part later about the 6 different queens. Yes, Rushil, you're absolutely right. This was one dynasty which had a lot of queens who came to rule.
Yes,
But the very, very first one is the Queen Tribhuvana Mahadevi that we are going to talk about in this episode.
Under her rule, all the women had equal rights to men and they could go out and have jobs and stuff.
and
Wonderful.
Tribhuvana Mahadevi 1 had a longer life than Tribhuvana Mahadevi 2.
I really love all this trivia that both of you have unearthed, but we're jumping the gun a little bit. First, let's tell our listeners how is it that Tribhuvana Mahadevi ascended the throne? All we know so far is she's a princess, neighboring kingdom, married, Shantikara won. Now, what has happened?
So after Shantikara Deva died after a fierce battle, Tribhuvana Mahadevi was chosen by the people to become the queen.
Yeah, I think basically the story is he died in battle, and then they needed an heir, but the Kanandai was too young, so she ascended the throne as a regent to like rule until he came of age. But in that rule, she ruled well enough to earn the name of a queen, essentially.
But I'll just set the record straight. Tribhuvana Mahadevi, the very first queen who ascended the throne in the Bhaumakara dynasty, she did ascend on account of the heir being too young to rule in his own name. So she was a regent. The subsequent 5 queens who came were elected or selected to rule in their own name without being a regent. But those queens were able to get that kind of a recognition only after the first queen, Tribhuvana Mahadevi, set a fantastic example. On that very, very laudatory note about this queen, statement number 4, am I serious or joking? Her army of 300,000 was entirely composed of men aged between 14 and 30.
Joking. You are joking because there were men plus women in her army.
The fact that she allowed women into the army would have practically doubled the strength of the army, which in turn would have made her one of the most powerful monarchs at that time.
That's an interesting math, that because she managed to double the number of people conscripted in the army, she managed to build a bigger army than most others did. You are very right that she had one of the largest armies, 300,000. You're also absolutely right that she gave men and women equal rights. So, which means she also accorded the same privilege to women, that if they chose to fight and join the army, they should do so. We'll move on to the last point. Now, she ruled very well. She kept her enemies at bay. She gave a lot of alms and charities to religious purposes, and she made her kingdom very rich by ensuring great trading practices with other kingdoms. If you visited Tribhuvana Mahadevi's kingdom when she ruled her kingdom, because I've made all these glorious statements about how well she ruled earlier. So, if you visited Tribhuvana Mahadevi's kingdom, then you would have found only Hindu temples everywhere. Am I serious or joking?
You're joking. Because I read up that she patronized many religions.
I think you are joking because she allowed other religion people to pray to their gods.
Both of you are absolutely right. She did patronize many religions. What is your guess on which other religions existed at the time she ruled the Kalinga kingdom? We are talking about 800 odd AD.
Islam.
A lot of religions, I'm guessing, maybe Buddhism also, if it was after Ashoka. I'm not sure.
So this is definitely post Ashoka. Buddhism did exist. To Rushil's point, I don't think Islam had really penetrated India.
That is after. Maybe after.
You're right. So the advent of Islam is after the Delhi Sultanate and subsequently Mughal rule in India. So at the time she ruled, she ensured that people of various religions had the opportunity to follow whatever religion they wanted to.
And she welcomed people of all religions into her kingdom.
So, which is why it is not only Hindu temples that you would have found on the streets of the kingdom that she ruled. You would have found Buddhist monasteries, quite a few, in fact. So, with that, we come to the end of our serious or joking game. So, in the course of all the research that you have done, what other interesting trivia did you come across about Tribhuvana Mahadevi?
She had all the three Shaktis. There are three Shaktis. She had them in a very brilliant way.
What were the three Shaktis?
Mantra Shakti, Prabhu Shakti, and Utsaha Shakti.
Do you know the meanings of these?
Mantra Shakti means foresee ideas. Prabhu Shakti means leadership. Utsaha Shakti means never ending enthusiasm.
Wow.
And she was a Mridu Kara means tax, and she used to take light taxes. Like she would take taxes, light taxes, and she would give back in bounty. She would make many temples, river guards, then learning institutes and Buddhist temples and everything she would make.
She was the only queen out of the 6 Tribhuvana Mahadevis that I checked out who was able to keep the throne against any nobles and stuff who might try to stop her, and she didn't lose the throne to anyone. She willingly gave it up when the time came.
Oh, you're saying the subsequent queens had to face a lot of rebellion from the nobles because they were more patriarchal?
Something like that, but actually the other queens were like different. They weren't able to handle political stuff so well and all that. So they were like they generally either were forced to abdicate or they got assassinated or something like that.
So her reign was really remarkable. It was a class apart.
Yes.
Wonderful. I will give both of you one tiny little trivia. Now, if you had to go and visit this place, that she ruled, it's a district called Jajpur. It's in Orissa today. And there's a lot of archaeological excavation that's happened there. And they have found proof of three great monasteries and universities that were built there. It's called a diamond triangle. Apparently, a lot of tourists travel to Orissa to visit this diamond triangle. It covers these three places called Ratnagiri, Udayagiri, and Lalitgiri. So on YouTube, I found great videos which show you how these three monasteries or whatever we have remaining of these three locations today. So if any of you wants to visit those places or at least visually visit it through the lens of somebody else's camera, I'm going to leave a link to this YouTube video in our show notes. All stories and facts and trivia for this episode have been picked from the book The Women Who Ruled India by Archana Garodia Gupta and an Amar Chitrakatha series I found on the warrior queens of medieval India. I'm going to leave links to these books also in the show notes below. So if any of you wants to buy these books and read them, you have easy access to them.
The facts from this have also been picked from Wikipedia because that's where I did my research.
Thank you for clarifying that. Shall we add link to the Tribhuvana Mahadevi page of Wikipedia also in the show notes?
Yeah.
What about you, Rushil? Where did you find most information? Do you want to share that source with me? I'll add it to the show notes.
I watched a lot of videos in YouTube.
All right, so we will leave our listeners with links to the videos that Rushil has watched on YouTube also as source for all the information that we have shared on this episode. With that, we come to an end on part 3 of The Queens Who Ruled India. Next week, I'll see you in part 4 of this podcast series. Thank you so much, Rushil and Adya, for doing your own bit of research. Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.